to look at a few blend tools in Photoshop 2021, including the eraser, spot heal, clone stamp, and smudge. So we'll just get started here. Jumping in, this is something I've worked on for a little bit. You can see making a hybrid of sorts for a project. I have a shoebill, which is a exotic bird of some sort with these funny looking legs and a cool gray color. And then I found a picture of a cat that I'm going to blend with it. Things to consider while you are interacting with blend tools is to make sure that you have high resolution imagery. Okay, so make sure it's a higher quality. If you see any sort of pixelation in an image, it's going to be a little bit more difficult, not impossible, just a little more difficult and time consuming in trying to interact with these tools and getting an outcome that you want more so. With the eraser, we'll just jump right in here. The eraser is letter E. Okay, if you look, again, if you hover over a tool, most will give you a preview of what it can do. The eraser, I use it as a blend tool by adjusting, making adjustments in this command bar. So if I turn this way down, all the way to 0, and then I adjust the opacity way down, I can use the, and let me zoom in here, I can use the eraser to slowly blend these areas. So let me get the right tool selected. There we go. Turn this way down, sorry. There we go. I can click and drag, and slow and steady wins the race when it comes to trying to blend and interact. Make two things to go together. So I don't want to be too aggressive on this. Keys to blending and allowing these things to work together. It's a constant dance between zoom in and zoom out, looking at what it looks like, going back in. Slow and steady. You don't want to be too quick and abrasive. When you do that, it looks more copy and paste and less natural per se. Of course, there's nothing natural but a bird with a cat head, but to make it look convincing nonetheless, it is good to go kind of slow and steady when you make those transitions. So also with a blending of two animals, two textures, whatever it may be, I always suggest leaving more than what you think you're going to end up using. So what I mean by that is that it's consistent. That I notice it's natural, I guess, for students to choose a head of one animal, a body of another, slap them on top of each other. But when they do that, they take it very literal, and they take the exact outline of a head and plop it right over the top of whatever animal. When you do that, the transition will look more copy-paste. Again, you're trying to make it convincing when you blend. So with that project especially, make sure that we're not just chopping it off at the head and plopping it on the top. Try to use more of the surface, more of the textures to make that transition work. Also, with that, the angle and the direction in which things are looking, and also the direction in which textures are going, will impact your outcome as well. So you have to kind of consider that when you put things together. Not that you have to have the exact same texture, obviously, to blend, but those are putting things in your court when you decide to do that. You can put slimy textures like a reptile of some sort with feathers. That's not what I decided to do here. So looking down here, I use the eraser a little bit to slowly transition, and then I can show you the spot heal. Sorry about that. But I don't know if there's much I want to heal here. Um, Originally, the spot healer was developed to heal blemishes on people's faces. So if you had a big old pimple or zit, you could get rid of it using this tool. Blemishes of any sort, that's what it's meant for, smaller areas that it tries to use what is around the shape or the tool itself to fill in that area. So if I see this like little black spot here, if I wanted to get rid of that, I could click, gone. Same goes over here, this little black spot, click, gone. If I wanted to get rid of some of this glare in his eye, I could click in there and get rid of some of that. So it's not meant to be one of those tools where you try to get rid of a big area per se. It can get kind of creepy. It's for smaller areas. So of course there's always exceptions to the rules, but that's how I use it typically, or for small areas. But it's a good way to quickly blend and clean up some blemishes potentially. Clone stamp. This one, it's kind of cool. It's the letter J, I believe, or S, sorry. I, right off the bat with the clone stamp, I go to my adjustments up here, and I'll show you kind of what not to do off the bat. I'm going to bump this way back up again, make this aggressive. And it works like a brush, so you can adjust the size with your bracket keys. And you can click and drag to kind of draw or paint. But this way it just stamps the area that you select initially. So in order for this to work right off the bat, oh yeah, also the sample, by default it's on current layer. I like to adjust it to all layers so I can interact with whatever layer I'm over the top of. So let's say I want the bill here, the beak. I can hold down Alt or Option and click on this area, and it will steal that area. Now it's very abrasive. I can click and drag and almost repeat this same design here. But you can see with the hardness all the way up and the opacity all the way up, it's pretty abrasive. Okay, and you can also see wherever I click and drag, there's that little crosshair. That is where it's creating its stamp from. So even though you Command Z, even though you selected from here originally, that may not be your end outcome after you click and drag. So that's abrasive. That's pretty quick. To make it function as a blend, you're gonna have to drop down the opacity. I always go in the 30-ish range, and the hardness all the way down. And you can then hold Option. Quick tip with the clone stamp, I always rest a finger over Option as I'm constantly making new stamps. Making new stamps continually will help alleviate creating the pattern of some sort when you're blending. So let's say I wanted, let's say I wanted some of this white area from the chest of the cat. Hold Option, click. What if I wanted it down here a little bit? I could start slowly building some of that hair down and almost make like this tuft of fur on the bird. And if I zoom out, has this little puff here. It's kind of fun. May not be exactly what I want, but it's an option. I can go the other way too. So let's say I hit S for the clone stamp. Let me make this a little bit smaller. I could take some of this feathered area here and take it up and put it into the cat. Maybe I'll go down here a little bit. Bring it, yeah, let's go right there. And I can bring some of that feathered texture up top too as I make that transition. I can always hit Command or Control Z to back up. But the clone stamp, it's a good one to blend with, but it can be overused pretty quick. Slow and steady rather than quick and abrasive when you use a clone stamp, and don't hesitate to make adjustments up in the command bar when you use it, and interact with multiple layers. Always take a step back, review it, go back in and see what happens. Another tool here is the smudge tool. This would work more so for smooth textures and subtle changes. Let me zoom in here. So let's say I want to smooth this edge a little bit. Again, I can make some adjustments up top here. Make this a little bit softer. So if I wanted to push or soften this edge of the cat, you can see I can push it a little bit and smudge it inward. I can also be really aggressive with it. Get the right layer here, there we go. And I can smudge like crazy this way too. It's not exactly what I want. It can be a heavy tool, meaning it takes a lot to create and compute what you're trying to do as well. That you can see that delay a little bit. But the smudge tool, I would use that as a softer or slower pace rather than aggressive. It can be kind of fun to mess around with images, but to blend, it needs to be slow and steady in order to make that work a little bit more in your favor. So you can use these as a blend tool. You can see I have with this, I can also mess around. I need to mess with this background and get rid of that. I also notice that with projects is we're quick to get rid of a lot of things that we don't want. Of course, I don't want this bill hanging out the side of the neck of the cat, but I don't want to just erase it and make this big gap or hole back here. Instead, I will use blend tools to fill that area in instead of making more work for myself. So if I look at this real quick while I'm here, I will restrict what can be adjusted by selecting an area first. Let's say that should work for now. I can use the clone stamp maybe. And select this area here and see if I can slowly blend the two together, taking what's around it to make it interact. I may have to adjust this even more after I do this area, but I'm continually holding Option or Alt to try to blend these two together using certain areas of the background. Maybe I can zoom out here, see what it looks like. Deselect. Now I have this aggressive edge here. That's okay. I can go back in with my, maybe I didn't have to select that initially. That's okay. I can go in and blend it a little bit more. Again, slow and steady rather than quick and abrasive. Trying to make a convincing background between these two here. And that hard line is not making it very convincing, so. Wrong key there. There we go. Just going to go through and tweak as I go. Luckily this background is organic, meaning there's no like building or structure there that I have to blend in. So I just need to make it convincing in a way rather than an exact structure. So I have more opportunity there, I would say. There we have it. Blended two things together there using just the clone stamp and softening it up. I could clean it up a little bit more, but that's a good start. And with that, I'll stop and review. I know I need to make quite a few adjustments back here to blend these two. I just wanted to show you some quick introductions to the eraser, spot heal, clone stamp, and smudge, and how you can use them as blend tools in Photoshop 2021.